Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and through you to the members. Mr. Speaker, thank you for your leadership, as well as the leadership of the gentle lady from Easton, the gentleman from Quincy, the gentle lady from Groton, for all of your hard work in this conference committee report that we are going to vote on today. Mr. Speaker, you made a promise, and you made a big promise to so many communities and so many people in this Commonwealth. And it was that you were going to be thoughtful with all of us. And you were going to engage all of us. And you were going to make sure that you had an understanding of something that was going to be big, profound. It was going to make a difference in the lives of so many. And that product is here today. It started in the discussion with the CSG group that was put together. Remember, folks, we voted on a CSG report last year. Not only did we vote on a report, we voted on adding funding to the amount of about $300.5 million as well. Today, that piece is also coming together. But the reform package that is before us today is the culmination of your leadership and the leadership of everyone here in making sure that we tackle a criminal justice system that's been broken. And the way that you brought us together in listening to our constituents, listening to the advocates, of which so many are here today. Wave, there you go. There's a whole bunch of people that are excited, and we're happy to see you here. The way that you brought us together with Justice Ireland in your office, with the gentle lady from Easton, with the gentleman from Quincy, in the beginning, back in the summer, to talk about what were those provisions that we were going to focus on. Just think of it, folks. There's over 15 provisions in this bill. This is a once-in-an-era bill because of the so many provisions in there that tackle from the beginning until the end of the entire criminal justice process. By engaging Chief Justice Ireland, Mr. Speaker, it brought a profound amount of gravitas to what we were doing, because he's a gentleman with such profound respect in our communities as well as here in the Commonwealth, as someone who's done so much on the bench as well as off the bench. And having him in the room to be thoughtful with us throughout the process deserves applaud for your vision and your leadership in bringing people to the table in everything that we do. Remember, we brought members of the courts, aside from Justice Ireland. We talked to the district attorneys, those criminal justice advocates that have been working on these issues for so many years. And yes, all of you, the members. I saw a picture. Actually, I have a book in my office where the gentleman from Boston back in 1970 was working on these issues and standing up. Because here in this building, back then, it was really difficult to talk about disparities in the criminal justice system relative to blacks, relative to Latinos, and others. This bill allows us not only to have those conversations and for the system to be thoughtful with everyone who is stopped and who's stopped in their car or on the street by a law enforcement official, to also the judges as well. Because the disparities have been great in so many different areas for way too long. And to do this on this special day, Mr. Speaker, on this special day, where we remember the legacy and celebrate the life of Dr. Martin Luther King. Remember, Dr. Martin Luther King spoke from that very spot that you're standing on right now, Mr. Speaker, back in April of 1965. 50 years ago today, he was assassinated amidst that fight for social justice and equality for people of color. He dedicated his life to love and to justice for his fellow human beings. And Mr. Speaker, I could think of no better way to commemorate his teachings than with this criminal justice reform legislation that is before us today. I'm proud of this report that we have before us, again, because it gets reform from beginning to end. With this bill, our system is going to focus on individuals, on people as who they are and where they are at in their lives, rather than being seen or being impacted and treated as a broad-based policy. This reform package that we have before us today, it's not a trade-off. We reached that point of balance that all of us can support. We ensure the public safety while making sure that we help those who want to turn their lives around and break the cycle of incarceration. For the first time ever, we're going to have a process to expunge records for offenses that are no longer crimes. Growing up in the housing project here in Boston, I can't tell you the number of times growing up in the 80s, having my pockets frisked, and my friends being thrown up against cars, and being thrown in cars and being bought into a cell at a very young age in a decrepit system, buildings falling apart, those jails. Remember the Suffolk County Jail was shut down because of human rights violations? There were kids that were brought to those buildings because they had a joint in their pocket. This bill will make sure that those kids, those adults now that were affected, they will be able to expunge that interaction, that piece of their life. They'll be able to check off the box and say, I have no record, when they're applying for housing or a job. And earlier this week, guess what, folks? Over 100 people from those communities applied for licenses to start a business. We are changing lives with this bill. This legislation today ensures that they have an opportunity to lift themselves up as they embark on their business enterprises. We do the same for youth, allowing juveniles to expunge those records. So if you were a gentleman at 16 from a particular community who might have gotten into a fight, maybe from Quincy or maybe from somewhere else, that charge won't haunt them for the rest of their lives as they apply for jobs, housing, and school. Mr. Speaker, the gentle lady from Easton provided a great summary of the topics of this legislation: bail reform, elimination of certain mandatory minimums, raising the felony larceny threshold, policies to stop trafficking in fentanyl, and so many other important reforms. And all of this complements that CSG report. Again, this was a collaborative effort. In the days that after the news broke of Dr. King's assassination, protests erupted around the country. And those moments were filled with anger, hatred, and bitterness. But Dr. King lived a life of love and peace, and his teachings inspired people to serve and to lead. He once said, "Law and order exist for the purposes of establishing justice." By working together, we've been able to identify areas which can improve the lives of people in the communities we represent. And in many communities, in my community in particular, we say, "Sí se puede." Yes, we can. Sí se puede. This conference report improves justice throughout our system. Y lo hicimos. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I hope this passes.